Welcome to Fanano, Italy for round 10 of the 1990 World Observed Trials Championship Series. This quaint little mountain village is about a 5-hour drive to the southeast of Milan and was the headquarters for this event. The host trials club was the Motorcycle Association of Modena under the direction of trials master Dr. Adriano Panetti. This club was formed in 1954 as an auto touring club, and in 1962 was enlarged to include motorcycle competition. In 1970, the first trials event was organized, and due to the surrounding terrain and nature of the sport, has become the largest and most popular part of the present club. There are 462 members here, and every weekend there is some type of competition or social event taking place. This little town of about 200 people sits on a hillside overlooking the valley where most of the sections were located for this event. Nearby are a number of ski resorts and very large lakes and mountains which provide many forms of recreation about any time of the year. Also of great interest, which attracts many tourists, are the historical events which happened around here and date way back to the Roman era. The sections here are going to be very difficult for the riders, as they always are here in Italy, and there's a good variation in them, from wet, slippery rocks to big, dry ones with tremendous ledges and steps to go up and down, plus some incredible hill climbs and waterfalls that will definitely keep the attention of the spectators and demand the most exact riding techniques from the riders. The spectators were able to walk or ride a bike or motorcycle on the spectator loop and were able to get to all of the sections along this 4-mile road. The only cars allowed on here were those belonging to officials and press personnel. However, due to the estimated 30,000 spectators that were here, traveling between these sections by car was not the fastest way to go. This time of the year, the weather is always real nice here, usually sunny skies and afternoon temperatures up around 85 degrees. Here's a look at the trophy that the top riders will be competing for as we catch a bit of the bike technical inspection and Jeff Aaron of the USA. But there's a lot more at stake here than just the trophy. Most important are the points that go along with that first place win. The rider with the most points at the end of the 12-event series will be the world champion and will determine his future riding contracts and sponsors, and most importantly, his financial status. 98 riders started this event, and only 58 finished. Of the finishing riders, 14 were from Italy, 13 from Spain, 6 from England, 6 French, 5 German, 4 Swiss, 4 Polish, 4 Finnish, 3 Czech, 3 Japanese, 2 Austrian, 2 Belgium, 1 New Zealand, and 1 from the USA. The Beta was the most popular bike, with 23 being ridden. Next was the Fanic with 13, 10 for Aprilia, 8 for Gas, 7 Montesas, 3 Mecatechnos, 2 Hondas, 1 JCM, and 1 Yamaha. The last event we covered was round 4 in Canada, which was won by Jordi Terrace, and that was his 13th win in a row, setting a new record for consecutive wins that won't be broken for a long time. However, his luck ran out at round 5 in Belgium. Diego Bozes finally broke Jordi's winning streak. Diego was first with 51 points, Jordi second with 59, Bilbao third with 66, Avila fourth, Nadomilio fifth, Couturier sixth, Berlatier seventh, Narita eighth, Camozzi ninth, and Cross at 10th. Going into round 6 in Germany on May 27th, Jordi's back in form again with 45 points, Bozes second with 52, Emilio third, Avila fourth, Berlatier fifth, Narita sixth, Bilbao seventh, Girard eighth, Saunders ninth, and Crawford 10th. And the first rider is on his way out. We'll see you down at section number 3. Because sections 1 and 2 were incredibly jammed with spectators, we started here with number 3. The first one was pretty easy for the top riders anyway, and we'll go to number 2 later on. The section information page shown before each section tells the number of points taken by all rides in that section and how it ranked in difficulty in the 15 sections in this event. The loop was about 7 miles long, and the riders had 7.5 hours to ride 3 loops of 15 sections each. This section featured lots of rocks that became very slippery when they got wet. The hardest part was getting through the water part right here, and most riders lost points in the attempt to do so. Once through it, though, it was just stay on your line to the exit. Here's the next hardest part of this section. Getting up on this rock, you had to make either a trick turn or else hop the bike sideways to get set up for the next little rock right in front of him. And a few tight turns over the tops of some of the other rocks, and he's right down to the exit. This section is about a half mile from the start area, and the little town of Fanano is just up to our left now on the hillside. This was a very popular place for the spectators, as sections 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all very close together here. Due to the massive amount of spectators around the sections, and even to get into the next sections to video, we had to follow a rider into the entrance to get a good position to video the riders. Most of the lower ranked riders took 5s when crossing the water. There wasn't much of a line through here. The rocks were so slick coming up out of the water that adding any throttle caused the back tire to spin, and that usually resulted in a 5. Melsira Storch on the factory Mecha Techno gets across with a 1, and then almost takes out Philippe Breladier as he is returning to his bike to ride the section. Philippe did well in this section, losing only 1 point on each of his other 2 rides. Some of the top riders are showing up now, and we asked Tommy Avila how he did on his first 2 sections.
First one was okay, but the second one was doing difficult. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, as Tommy said, the second section was too difficult. Actually, only 2 riders made it through this section on the first lap. And then we asked Amos Bilbao the same question.
A 1 and a 5.
And Peter gets the first clean in this section. Not too bad for an old married man of 26 with a new baby girl. This is his last season for world competition, though. He's going to retire and be a sports coach back in his home country of Finland. Real nice move from Amos there as he gets through the hardest part of the section. And Amos gets through with a clean. These top riders really make this riding look easy. The present world champion, Jordy Terrace, looking over this part of the section. Jordy spent a lot of time here checking out the rocks underneath the water, just making sure that he was going to be on the easiest line through. A nice touch here that I haven't seen before are these helium-filled balloons that stand up by each section, marking the entrance or the location to the section. Jordy gets a little out of shape there and has to take a one. And he makes that look pretty easy. Jordy's really good on these trick turns, and he loves these dry rocks. Nice ride with the one. Steve Saunders did not finish this event due to an injury to his foot that he received on his second lap on the big rock in section number 4, where we'll be going next. In fact, that rock injured quite a few riders and even broke a couple of bikes. But it was a very popular section for the spectators, as we'll soon see. A real nice ride for Steve, and he gets the third clean in this section today. We usually can't show all the top riders in these sections, so for the ones that we don't show, we'll give the results of their rides. Diego Bozos had a clean 1 and a 2. Fernando Emilio, 2 cleans and a 1. Pascal Couturier, a clean 2 and a 5. Robert Crawford from England with 2 5s and a clean. Marco Reet, who placed 10th in this event today, had a 3-1 and a 5. David Marshy, who placed 11th, had a 5-3 and a 1. And a new rider from Japan, Takumi Narita, who is the #1 Japanese rider, and he's spending his summer over here in Europe riding world rounds, had a 3-3 and a 1. And we'll take a look at Takumi later on in the event. We move down to the exit now. Catch Andrew Codina as he comes through the section. And a real good ride for Andrew with a clean. Well, I know if I were riding this section, I would be just more than a little psyched out by the big killer rock at the end of this section. And unless I was really good with the third gear splatter technique, which I am not, I would have to take my 5 the easy and safe way by riding around the rock to the exit. But even the riders who can do this maneuver exceptionally well had problems here. We picked Peter up about halfway through the section. The first part was pretty easy. It's this last part that really separates the abilities of the riders. All the riders would stop here to generate some courage and psych up before attempting the jump. Peter's about ready. Let's see how he does here. Boy, what a shock to the bike and the body that is. Third gear almost wide open to a dead stop almost instantly. And this is Pachow, the chief mechanic and design engineer of the Gas Motorcycle Company. A very talented man, for sure. It's real muddy in front of that rock that the riders have to go up, so there's not too much traction. Here the spectators got a free mud bath from German rider Horst Hoffmann, who just took a 5 by slipping off the side of that rock. Ender Codina just showed up, and we asked him how he was doing up to now.
Section number 2 is like this one.
Difficult?
Very difficult. Jody make 5 and many people make 5. And the other ones are a little bit easy.
Anybody get through number 2?
I think Saunders are 3 at the moment.
What do you think of this section?
I think it's a typical Italian section.
Difficult exit. Difficult rock
yes,
right here.
Yes, spaghetti section.
Second gear?
Third gear.
Third gear?
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tommy tried the higher line to get up the rock, but there's a lot of loose sand and dirt on top of this rock, and he couldn't quite get the traction to keep going. Daniel Crossett makes a real nice recovery here as his helper rider talks him into backing up for one more try at this rock. Well, that impressed a few people, including myself. It's got to feel real scary coming back down off that rock backwards and knowing there won't be anything to step on for a while. Another hard part is that once up on top of the rock, you have to make an immediate left turn and then go up the hill to the exit. And this part is very loose and tricky also. A real difficult section, ranked third hardest in this trials. Theory Gerard's top rider. Really talking to him. You can see the look of determination on Theory's face. Nice ride, and he's out with the first three in this section today. You can see this is a very popular section. A lot of spectators are hanging around here to watch the action. A lot of riders took their fives right here by slipping off of this rock, which was probably good. Then they didn't have to ride the big exit rock. Oh, and Pascal's just pretty close to a five here a couple of times. Philippe Berlatier had 2 3s and a 5. And all the remainder of the riders in this section all took 5s. Now Pascal made that look pretty easy. He did pretty good in this section, taking 3 3s. Looks like Piero broke the subframe of his Aprilia. And there'll be a few more bikes broken on this section before the day's over. Diego Bozis entering this section. You can kind of get an idea here what the beginning part of this section is like and why the top riders didn't have too much of a problem with it. Diego did pretty good on this section. He was the only rider to clean it. That was on his second loop. And he had a 2 on his last loop. But he has the encouragement of the crowd here. And that helps a lot when you're riding, knowing that the crowd is behind you. It really cheers you on when you do a really good ride. Well, that ride brought quite a response from the spectators, and it'll be a hard act to follow for Japan's #1 rider, 18-year-old Takumi Narita, who is riding the section now. Takumi is spending the summer over here with several other top Japanese riders, riding trials events and sightseeing, just like Jeff Aaron and his friend are doing. Narita is riding the Honda TLM and is sponsored by the Honda Racing Division. We showed you the bike in the opening part of the video, and what's kind of unique about this bike is that it has dual spark plugs and coils that provide for better burning of the fuel in the cylinder and results in a bit more power. Takumi is a very smooth and talented rider, and watch for him to maybe be in the top 10 ranking soon. Now here's where a helper rider really earns his money. Freddie Michaud rearranges the rocks so that his rider, Fanano, can have a smoother run at the big rock. It sounded like Takumi's bike came out of gear, but his helper rider just picked up his gear shift lever that got sheared off on the higher part of the rock when he landed. So he rode back to the pits, got it fixed, and was back for the next section shortly. Now let's see how Donato does in here. Now for a quick scramble up the hill above this section and a few on-the-move shots of the surrounding area and all the spectators heading out to the different sections. And this is that narrow, congested road that goes up the valley to the other sections. These section markers are really a nice touch. Looking at them a bit closer, we found that they were made out of nylon and were inflated by air supplied by a small engine driving a small fan. While we were heading over to Section 6, our other cameramen caught a few riders in Section 5. Literally in the starting gates is Jeff Aaron. This section starts going straight up the hill, then a left turn back down, followed by a trick right turn up over a large rock, and we'll take a look at the rest of the section in a bit. Not quite enough speed from Jeff, and he scored a 5. Jordy gets up there with plenty of speed. This hillside is very loose. Here's that trick right turn that they had to make. Then a left turn back down into a little area where another trick turn was required. And straight ahead up over another rock. Another left turn and back down to a little turning area here where a trick turn was necessary. And then it's straight ahead up the hill over a few big ledges to the exit. Right in here was probably the hardest part. Most of the riders took their points if they got this far. Right in this area where Jordy is now. He's out with the 1. We'll catch Amos here right on the last part of this section. He's got a good ride coming up. Another clean for Amos. And the scores of the rest of the riders that placed in the top 15 in this event were Tommy Avila with 2 cleans and a 1, Couturier 2-3-2, Crawford 1-3 and a 2, Reet 5-1-0, Marshy 3-1-5, Merida 3-5-3, Codina with 3 1s, and Bruno Camozzi with 2 cleans and a 5. This was the easiest section in the trials today. An impressive jump off that big rock was followed by an immediate trick turn to the right. And now, right ahead of Eric, is the hardest part of the section. Again, the splatter technique had to be used to get up the big rock step. There was a small launch rock just before the big one that the riders were using, but it appeared to be hard to stay on your line to use it. Jeff Aaron had a clean 2 and a 3 in here, and he finished just ahead of these 2 riders that you just seen in 43rd place with 203 total points. So, if you've ever competed against Jeff or have seen him ride, you might compare your riding to his and then see how you might have done in this event here today. Going back to the entrance of the section, we catch Tommy Avila as he goes up the big incline rock. Most of the riders didn't have any problem with that part. Most of the troubles for the riders started from here on. These top riders really make this look easy. Now at this point, a little rock jumping is required. Up a small rock, over another big rock, and he's at the exit with a clean. Most all the top 10 riders cleaned this section, except Terry Gerard, and he had a 2, 1 and a clean. Narita had a clean, 1 and a clean. Galak, 0, 1, 1. And Chiaberto had 2 5s and a clean. If you're into checking, here's a ride from Gabino that you might want to practice on. See if the score that you would have given him would be the same as he gets here. This practice is to get you ready for section number 13. This was the sickest sounding motor I've heard for a long time, but that tough Fanuc just kept on running and earned Horst Hoffman a 15th place finish. I talked to him after the event and found out that this was his practice bike that he had to ride because his new one that was being delivered to him was in a van that had broken down on a mountain road somewhere up in Switzerland. But check out Jordy's technique in this section. Notice how smooth he is on the throttle and the clutch. And also his splatter technique right here. This is an easy section for the world champ and an excellent ride. Here's a shot of some deliberate destruction by the workers on section number 9 to make it just a bit harder for the riders. However, it didn't stop most of the top riders from cleaning at each ride, except for Diego Bozes and Tommy Avila, who each scored a clean, a 5, and a 1. and Amos Bilbao, who had a clean and 2 5s, and Thierry Gerard, who had a real problem in here with 3 5s. Jeff Aaron had a 3 and 2 5s. Due to the unbelievable mass of spectators around here and the length of the section, we elected to pass on to number 10. While waiting to ride this section, we asked Amos Bilbao which one was the hardest so far.
Show number 8. Many. Only Berat here? 3.
So, section 8 is the hardest so far, he says. Actually, only 4 riders made it through that section on the first lap, and they all were 3s. Section 10 here is located in the trees, and it consisted of mainly a big ditch full of great big rocks. This part right here and the exit were the hardest. Amos doesn't quite have the technique here. He scored a 5. Back at the entrance, also kind of tricky, up over a pile of rocks. And then right here, kind of a trick turn to the right. And UC went on to 3 this section. These entrance rocks were very hard to ride. Your technique coming over there had to be just right. Henry also went on to 3 this section. This is kind of a difficult downhill, trying to stop the bike and get set up for a turn. Here's where you have to be real good at your trick turning to be able to do a maneuver like this and stay balanced. Tough part coming up here. This is a real busy section. There's a lot of obstacles in here that keep you going. You can't relax for just even a second unless you can stop the bike and balance like Tommy's doing now and kind of recover yourself. From here, the riders kind of zigzag back and forth through this section. Tommy now is trying to get set up for the exit rocks, which was just a big pile of rocks, and to pick your line over them was very difficult. So he's backing himself up into the corner of the section here to give himself just a little more of a run. Very difficult exit. He's out with a 3. Andrew here is giving the boys a little lesson in where to place the rocks. We'll jump ahead here in Andrew's ride and catch him at the exit. He was clean up to this point. Lots of different lines through this exit made this section all that more confusing for the riders. While you watch a few of the riders in this section, I'll get into parts of the interview that I had earlier with French rider Philippe Berladier. I asked him where all the good riders in France lived.
All the good riders in France live in the south. There is Michaud, Couturier, Siamen, Girard. Everybody are in the south of France because we have a big mountains, Alps, very near, and in winter it's possible to practice a lot because the sunshine and the weather is warm.
Do you have another job? Do you work?
No. I'm driver.
You just ride trials
yes,
for...
Yes, just ride. I work for factory and importer.
And Beta pays you
yes.
Money to ride?
For World Championship is Beta, and for French Championship is the importer.
I say, how about endorsements like gloves and
yeah, after I have over contract with my gloves, helmet, tires, oil, benzene.
Will you ride the Beta next year?
I think yes. Normally, after the Italian round, I go in the factory for film and for 91.
How much do you practice? Do you practice every day, maybe a little bit?
I hope to I try to practice every day and more time that I can. I think for coming in a top 10 in a World Championship, you must during I don't know 5 or 6 years, 5 hours by day or 20 hours by week. For coming very good in a World Championship in a top 10. After you must just keep the health. 2 hours every day is good to go on a bike.
What's your schedule for the rest of the year after the World Rounds are over? What will you do? Maybe ride stadium trials?
I try to make some indoor trials, but I don't like very much this kind of trail. I think it's too dangerous, and we don't get enough security in a section.
How much longer do you plan on riding?
If I can ride well, don't make a lot of mistake when I ride, or when I be able to go in a section, I ride. When I see that it's not possible for me because the technique is too high, or I can't arrive to make a section, I stop.
Well, thanks, and good luck to you Sunday.
Yeah,
thanks for the interview.
Thank you.
Well, that's kind of a different line out of this section. But Jordy rode this the best of any of the riders. He only dropped 2 points in here all day. And his last ride, he cleaned the section. Takumi barely gets himself out of a jam here. There were only 5 cleans in this section all day. Jordy had one of them. Tommy Avila had one. Fanano Emilio. Philippe Berladier had a clean on his first ride through here. And Diego Bozes had a clean. Philippe had a clean in 2 threes. Pascal Couturier, 2-3-1. Terry Gerard, 3-2-3. Marco Reet, 1-3-1. Marshy with 2 threes. Also Bruno Camozzi with 3 threes. And Jeff Aaron had a 3-5 and a 3. Well, that was kind of an interesting 3. We'll catch Donato here at the exit, and he'll be the last rider in this section. During the interview before, you may have noticed Freddie's brother, Thierry Michaud, talking to Jordy Terrace at the start of this section. Thierry was world champ in 1985, 86, and 88, and has been the French champion since 1983. He is still recovering from the broken lower left leg that he received in a stadium trials back in January and might ride a world round toward the end of this season. But can he get back in shape enough for next year? Also, rumor has it that he, along with Robert Crawford, signed with Montesa for next year. Well, that's a good, honest 2-point ride. Steve Saunders was just one of the 159 fives that were taken in this section, and most of them were right here on this big, vertical, shoulder-high exit rock. The spider technique wouldn't work this time, as the riders came out of a turn and then were forced to set up about a bike length from the rock. Philippe Berladier gets out and just muscles the bike up over the big rock, and he's out of the exit now with a 2. Amos Bilbao now riding up to the last part of the section. Little trick turn here, up over a couple of rocks. Then a trick turn to the right to get set up for the big exit rock. You had to kind of ride down here and trick turn the bike and move it over to the right a bit. Here Amos tries to go straight ahead, and this just was not the line. Jordy Terrace now entering this section. Kind of a long section. The first part of this was fairly easy. Most of the riders didn't have any problem with this series of turns and up and down a few big rocks. I gave you the results of round 5 and round 6 before. Round 7 held in Sweden on June 10th. Emilio and Bose is tied with 25 points. Emilio won on cleans. Jordy was 3rd with 33 points. Avila 4th with 34. Gerard 5th. Saunders 6th. Berladier 7th. Couturier 8th. Camozzi 9th. And Hapanen 10th. There's a couple of different lines Jordy could use. And he elects to turn just a little bit short. And this is probably the line that most of the top riders were using. They'd hop the rear end down between that marker and the rock. Well, almost for Jordy. Thierry Gerard's on the same line. This is what that rock looks like from a rider's point of view. You can see it's kind of undercut, but it's just a little lower on the far side, which is the place most of the riders were hitting it. Once on top of the rock, You jump down off the back onto this flat one. And then down to a smaller rock and right out the exit, which at this time is marked closed with that ribbon. Larry Gerard fives it. Very difficult to get up that undercut rock from right there at that point. A lot of spectators are on this section also. And on up the valley, sections 12 and 13. Round 8 in Finland was won by Jordy with 40 points. Emilio had 76. Third was Bozis with 77. Gerard fourth. Berladier fifth. Avila sixth. And Crawford was seventh. Camozzi placed eighth. Peter Jan ninth. And Couturier 10th. Round 9 held in Spain on July 1st. Bozis won this one with 83 points. Avila with 84. Jordy was third with 87. Bilbao with 90. Fifth, Emilio. Sixth, Camozzi. Seventh, Gerard. Berladier was eighth. Couturier ninth. And Robert Crawford was 10th. Pascal has to take a dab here, and that's pretty close to a 5. But the checking over here in Europe is definitely more liberal. They usually allow a rider to take a quick dab with the bike now moving, as he just did there. In the U.S., though, it's generally scored as a 5. It's always a difficult one to score. Oh, and Pascal's left front fork really smacked that rock hard. While he was waiting at the next section, I checked out the damage. All there was a gouge on the plastic protector on the lower fork tube. That tough little piece of plastic sure saved his day. Takumi's going to try this one straight ahead. As you can see here, the bike has to come down, and then he's got to pull the front end up, and that's difficult. Diego Bozis about to try his luck at this big rock. He takes about the same line Jordy did. Diego did clean this section twice. Jordy had one clean. Philippe Berladier had another one. Bilbao had a clean, and Crawford had a clean. So only 6 cleans in this section. Just about makes it out. Tommy Avila had a 1 and 2 5s. David Marshy 5 and 2 2s. Godina, Camozzi, and Reed all had 5s each time they rode it. And the last rider, Fanano Emilio, entering the section. Fanano wants to take the high line. A lot of people kind of crowded in up there into the section. So he just stopped, and he's having them back up out of the way. Well, Donato's got a different line here. He's going over to the left side. And the rock's just a little bit higher at that point. Well, we'll see what he does here. I think he's figuring he can back the bike up and get more of a run at the rock coming at it from this side. He almost makes it out of a nice try. This was just a fairly difficult, twisty, loose hill climb that took lots of threes. There was only one line up the hill, and if you strayed off of it or got too slow, you were definitely going to collect a few points. The hardest part was about halfway up, right at the steepest part of the hill. And a lot of riders took fives right at this point. Most of the top riders didn't have any problem with this section. Tommy Avila had 3 cleans. Amos Balbao, 2 cleans and a 3. Couturier, a clean 3 and a 1. Crawford, 5 clean 3. Gerard, clean 1-1. Reed, 2-5 and a clean. Marshy, 1-3 and a 1. Andrew Codina with a 5-3-5. And Bruno Camozzi with a 1-3 and a 5. Steve runs out of speed here, collects a 5. See how loose this hill is. Once up at the top where he is here, there's just a bit of a right trick turn and then up the last part of the hill. Most of the riders rode this in 3rd gear. And the last part of this hill's real loose, a little bit off camber also. Jordy's out of the exit with a 1. Nice way to view this trials from the hang glider. All these hills and ridges around here. Very excellent place to do some ridge soaring. Takumi made that look pretty easy. He's out with a clean. We'll catch Daniel in the last part of this section. You can see here what happens when you get just a little bit too slow. You can see the spectators there trying to cover up. Daniel's really giving him a shower of small stones and gravel from his back tire as he's trying to spin his way up. It's like he's going to make it up, but he used a lot of energy on that. It might show up later on. He's out with a 3. Emilio's going to be the last rider in this section. And we'll give you the lap 1 scores of the top 10 riders. Moses and Emilio both tied with 22 points. Third was Berlatier with 29. Jordi was fourth with 30. Couturier fifth with 34. Avila with 39. Seventh Bilbao with 39. Eighth Narita with 42. Camozzi was ninth with 42. Galak 10th with 47. And Fanano's out with another clean. Now we'll head over to section number 2, the hardest one in the trials, for the second lap. Louis Galak comes through the starting gates and up the easy first part of the section. Then it's a 90-degree right turn back down the hill, and now the fun begins. A left turn back up the hill, and now a choice of lines, which we'll examine shortly. The hardest and scariest part was the 8-foot, slightly inclined wall that the riders had to get up to get to the exit. Most of the riders didn't even ride this section. Bruno Camozzi, the 18-year-old Frenchman who took 8th in the USA round, takes the straight line up, and since I was standing on a small tree stump and almost fell off, he stopped just in front of the wall and maneuvered his bike to where he is now. He wisely takes a 5, and Hurley gets his card punched. Actually, most of the top riders are way behind time at this point, and they're really going to have to hustle to keep from getting disqualified on the time limit. Pascal takes the lower line, and here he had to do just a little bit of a trick turn to the right, and then straight up the hill, and this was difficult to do. He had to have almost a perfect ride to be able to get through here, get enough speed and traction to get up this last wall. There were 165 fives on this section. Jody Terrace and Amos Bilbao each had a 1. Moses and Emilio each had a 2. And there were 5 threes. Pascal had 1. Gioberto had 2 of them. Crosset had 1. And Luca Ossolini from Italy had 1. Here's the straight line up. And Narita takes a big slide back down the hill. Both he and the bike were okay though. Probably just some hurt pride, and that can be replaced real easy. When you ride trials at this level, you have to expect something like this to happen once in a while. Jordi had 2 5s and a 1. Berlatier, Avila, Crawford, and Gerard all had 5s. Bilbao had a 5, 1, and a 5. Gioberto, 3, 5, 3. And Crosset and Ossolini had 5, 3, and a 5. All the other riders 5 this section. Diego's thinking about this for quite a while. It looks like he's going straight up. And he just barely makes it up. Looked like he had a little more speed than Narita did. Diego's out with it too. Not too many riders saw the top of this section. And the last rider through here, Donato Emilio. Donato takes the low line. Now he's going to have to do some trick turning here to get it straightened up and lined up for the hill. Pretty close to a 5. It's tough to get started from right here. It's very loose. Not too much traction. Superb clutch work from Donato. That's the way to find traction when it's slippery. Section 12 was located up at the top end of this valley. We're about 4 miles from the start-finish area by car. The section starts over these 2 rocks, then it goes up around those small trees, you turn to the right, and back down to the creek. Once down here, it's a left turn, back up these slippery rocks, up toward the second waterfall, and a left turn at that point, and the exit is just a little bit up the hill. A very challenging section. There was a great variation of sections here, so no rider was really favored by just the same type throughout the trials. An excellent event by the Trials Masters. Philippe Berlatier riding now. And this was a pretty hard part of the section. He takes a couple of points here. There was only one clean in this section. Tommy Avila had that. There were 3 ones. Jordi Terrace had 1, Diego Bozis, and Amos Bilbao. Not Emilio had the only 2 in this section. Phillippe is going to balance here for quite a while. So to save videotape and make the event move along a little faster, we've been cutting off some of the balancing time that the riders had, and also in some cases, the easy parts of the long sections. Phillippe is looking at kind of a different line here. Looks like he's planning on hopping up on that ledge and staying out of the water where all the slippery rocks are. The riders took a lot of time riding this section, so we're only going to show 2 riders and move on to section number 13. His helper rider said this is a line right up here. And he's out with a 3. Tommy Avila has to take one. Jordy Terrace had a 5, 1 and a 5. Diego Bozes 1, 3, 3. Emilio with a 2 and 2 3s. Bilbao with 2 5s and a 1. And Couturier, Gerard, Reed, Marshy, and Codina all had 5s. Robert Crawford a 3 and 2 5s. And Bruno Camozzi with 3 3s. Tommy rides the same line that Philippi did. This is another very busy section. There's a lot of obstacles in here that really keep you going. And he's out with a 3. Okay, here's the section that all you checkers are just going to love. I'm sure you're not going to agree too many times with what the rider received for a score. I think the checker in this section missed checker school, but at least he was consistent in his method of scoring, especially on the first part of this section, right here in this little slippery waterfall area that the riders had to go up. The Regeorge helper rider says this is the line. Those rocks are slick. Well, that's a definite 5, no doubt about that. Looks like a 3 to me so far. Little trick turn here in this pool of water, and then up another waterfall, over a couple of big rocks, and then up to the exit. Now a trick turn to the left. And he gets a 2. Well, we thought it was a 5, but he kept on going and rode the section, and they scored him a 2. Andrew came back down out of the section, but I think if he'd have kept going, he wouldn't have had that 5. Berlatier had 3 2s. Bilbao clean, 5 and a 2. Reet and Marshy each with a 2 and 2 5s. And Narita with 2 2s and a 5. There were 4 cleans in this section. Jordy had 2 of them. Diego had 1. And Amos Bilbao had 1. Jordy flicks it into 3rd gear. And that's the way to get up there. A little more speed in a higher gear. Now he shifts back down to 2nd gear. Jordy's bike has a 3rd gear in it that is geared slower than the stock 1990 models. Along with a lot of other improvements, the new 91 model comes with this slower gear already in it, and it makes this gear much more useful. And he scored a 2. How would you score this? Some of the spectators are wondering about that score. Donato made it through the rest of the section clean, and he was scored a 1. Now for the 3rd lap, and the 9-foot wall at the start of section 7. Even though this looked pretty awesome, a lot of riders made it up, only to 5 the climb at the exit, which was the hardest part of the section. We'll catch up to Louis Galak here as he rides through the section. Not too many spectators around here now. It's a little bit easier to move through the sections. Another shorter vertical wall to go up. Most of the riders made it up here fairly easy. And here's those slick rocks again with the water on them. About a 50-yard ride up this. Stop, make a trick turn to the right. And then the hardest part of the section. A lot of riders made it to this point and 5'd it. A shot from the top of the initial wall now. To ride this trials, you really had to be good with the splatter technique, because it was used in a lot of the sections. There were 5 cleans in this section: Jordy, Diego, Donato, Philippi, and Tommy. Real nice ride from Thierry Gerard. It goes right up the exit climb there with no difficulty at all. Tommy Avila had a 5 clean and a 3. Amos Bilbao, 2 5s and a 3. Marco Reet, 1 and 2 5s. David Marshy, 2 1s and a 5. Narita had a 1 and 2 5s. And Kamosi, a 3 and 2 5s. Andrew gets a bit crossed up and he has to take a 5. It's Robert Crawford on the exit. Oh, he almost loses it. The riders are really starting to have to hurry now. They're just about out of time. And the lap 2 scores showed Bozis again number 1 with 18 points. Paris second with 19. Emilio with 25, Beladia with 25, Avila with 33, Bilbao with 43, Marshy with 44, Eric Brandauer with 45, Crossan with 46, Sembini with 47. And that puts Bozis in the lead with 40 points. Jordy has 41, Emilio has 47. And Jordy takes a 5, and he sure doesn't need any more points right now. This exit's really getting difficult. Fanano doesn't even stop. He just turns the corner and goes right up. A real good ride. We'll catch Diego on the exit now. He's the last rider. And he's really in a rush. Excellent ride. He scored a 1. The next section, number 8, is right next door, but none of the riders are riding it because they just don't have the time, and the section is very difficult. Most of the riders were 5ing it anyway. Here's a quick shot of the start of section number 8. Everyone was 5ing the entrance, and only 14 riders got through with 3s. These wet rocks were the slickest I've ever had my foot on, and the riders had to ride across the ridges, which were angled up at about a 30-degree angle. Most lost traction and slid down and out of the side of the section. It would be like riding across a 20-foot wide water slide with a mossy, uneven bottom. Here Diego takes a quick and wise 5. We had to really hurry to get down here to section number 15, the last one in the trials, before the top riders and most of the spectators did. Just getting past the mass of spectators on the road was quite an experience. We're about a quarter mile from the start-finish area. Section number 1 is right over on the opposite hillside. The trials masters built a bridge to cross the water to get to this hill climb. Up the hill, a little turn to the right, and then back to the left, and then out of the exit right up there in the trees. A difficult spot was right here in this very loose dirt making this left turn. And there were some roots to go over right here. A lot of riders took points going right through this area. This new prototype gas that Andrew is riding is working real good now after some major frame and engine changes. It's presently in production, and next year you'll see a lot of them being ridden over here. I had a chance to ride it after the trials and was impressed by its lightness, engine response, and handling. Hopefully, someone will import it into the USA. And a rider correction is in order here. This isn't Horst Hoffman, who might have made a last lap trade for an Aprilia. It's actually Didier Monin from Switzerland, who, like a lot of other riders, ran over his time limit and was disqualified. Right now, Jordi and Diego are tied at 83 points, but Jordi takes one here, putting Diego 1 point ahead. Here he takes another, so that gives Diego a 2-point lead. But he has to ride this section yet, and they both are running late, so they will get points added for that when they turn in their scorecards. And then the final winner will be determined. Tommy Avila had 2 5s and a 3. Bilbao and Couturier 3-2-3. Crawford with 2 5s and a 2. Gerard and Reet with a 3 and 2 2s. David Marshy 3-3 and a 5. And Bruno Camozzi with a 2 and 2 3s. Fanano's also running light today, and he's going to finish this event in 3rd place with 91 points. Here comes Diego. He's the last rider and is really running late. He has to take it clean or a 1 to win. There's 1. And he takes a 2nd one and ties with Jordi. Now the officials will count the cleans, and the one with the most will win. It's amazing, in a difficult event like this, their score is dead even. The Italian round is now history, and we'll head back to the finish line to see who won. Back at the start-finish area, while the scores were being tabulated, we found Tommy Avila just sitting around relaxing, so we asked him for his comments on this event.
The sections, I liked it. This was okay because it was possible to make 0 and it was possible to make 5, but I don't like this kind of section. I don't know how to try well in this kind of section, because for me it's okay if I try only 1 meter and then I stop, then again 1 meter, and here today sections where that you have to try continuously.
Did the bike work okay for you?
Yeah, with the bike I didn't have any problems, only with the rider and with the weather also.
Jordi won this event with 17 cleans, and Diego took 2nd with 15. That's just about as close as you can get. Jordi went on to win round 11 in Poland with 51 points. Emilio was 2nd with 52. Avila 3rd with 66. Bose is 4th with 66. And Boladier was 5th.